Hello everyone, I'm LittleFrank.Romito with StoneAge Water Blast Tools. Thank you all for responding to our recent question on social media. Today, we'll talk about a couple of your concerns with your specific tube cleaning applications. We received an inquiry on a difficult to remove deposit similar to the state of plexiglass. The complaint was that the material would hydraulic while the lance was under operation, and it was stated that the customer was using a lance slightly bigger than a 1/4 inch at 20K. So what we do every day at StoneAge is we continually educate and inform our customers on what they may be using, what they could be using, correct lance identification and nomenclature related to end fittings versus what the lance ID may be. So they're two different things, and there's common field language that we will take and translate into what we think you may be dealing with and what we may want you to give a try. So today I have two examples here of a 1/4 inch end fitting and two different tools of ours, two different Banshee swivels that will fit on each particular hose. The lance here that we have is a 3/4 flex lance from Spearstar. It's rated up to 20,000 PSI. It's actually coupled with an unplugger head at about 6 gallons a minute, which is relatively an appropriate flow through a 3mm lance. And we're using a BN 9.5. You'll notice that the swivel size, the Banshee, and the swedge size or the crimp size are dangerously close to each other. The goal is to use the shortest hose possible for your length of tube, yet use the largest tool that we can accomplish a sufficient standoff distance so that you can achieve your desired cleaning results without having to do multiple passes. So with this lance, you're somewhat limited, but remember, it's available with a 1/4 inch end, and this tool has an appropriate flow for this lance for good parameters and without a lot of pressure loss. The lance on my right here is a 4/4 lance and should be used over a 3/4 lance when possible. Now, if the tube ID is small and the deposit wants to gather around the tool, gather around the lance, and perform a hydraulicking-like effect, you may be forced to use the smaller tool, which we will jet appropriately and ensure that you're using the correct jet configuration on your head and the correct amount of flow to sufficiently remove the deposit. So on our right here, we have a BN 13, which allows for a little bit more flow. We'll be running about 8 gallons a minute through this lance with a universal head configuration. So an unplugger, a universal, and a polishing head is what we do have standard off the shelves, as you see behind me here, in stock, ready to go. However, we make custom heads on a daily basis. So if we need to tweak your flow for appropriate parameters through your system, we will do so. If we need to tweak jet configuration, we can do that as well. We'll take a closer look at heads in a moment here. But if you notice here, our tool size is roughly 1/2 inch, and our swedge or crimp size is just slightly less than 1/2 inch. So this is about the best that we can do, and this 4/4 hose allows for greater flows through it. You may be limited to this depending on your tube size. So both of these hoses come standard with 1/4 inch machine threads on the end with a medium pressure seat. So we have just discussed a couple of our common configurations for flex lancing, whether manually or machine fed, for a 3/4 or a 4/4 flex lance at 20K with our BN 9.5 or a BN 13 tool. We offer unplugging heads, polishing heads, and universal configuration heads and custom heads upon request. We will now talk about using the same tool on a larger lance, which allows for better performance in your cleaning job. So here we have a 5mm ID lance and a 3mm ID lance. It does not sound like a lot, and all we're changing is the inlet connection and the size of the flex lance. But if you notice, with utilizing a Blast Pro end, we are maintaining one fluid size where the crimp is no larger than the tool, and we are drastically reducing our pressure drop by increasing our lance ID. We can use the same tool and the same head by just switching an inlet nut, but increasing performance. If you have the ability to do so, you could also run a 6/4 lance or a 6mm ID lance, which is commonly called a 1/4 inch flex lance. We have 1/4 inch ends and we have 1/4 inch IDs. These two lances just so happen to have a 3/8 connection on them, and this is a BN 15. So if you provide your tube ID size and your tube length, we can configure the shortest, largest ID and the largest tool selection without hydraulicking to perform the best in your application. A BN13 can fit on a 6-4 lance or a 5-4 lance or a 3-4 lance or a 4-4 lance. What lance you put it on is totally specific to your job. We have the same tool here, a BN13 with about a 1/2 inch outside diameter on a 4mm lance with adequate performance. The same tool on a 5-4 lance with drastically increased performance depending on how much water we flow and what configuration you need to unplug, flush, or polish. And we have a 6mm ID lance with a slightly bigger tool or the same size tool for excellent performance with lance ID versus flow. Or, depending on your tube ID, we step up 2mm of outside diameter to increase our standoff distance for the most productive clean at 20K for your particular job. The phenomenon of hydraulicking while tube cleaning is continually a great challenge for contractors worldwide. The means of manually feeding a flex lance, even if it is the appropriate size, can be inadequate and result in hydraulicking due to too quickly of a feed rate without the chance for material to escape. Using a means of automated or power-fed equipment can greatly reduce your chances of hydraulicking due to a controlled slow feed rate. When a lance is fed slower, it allows the time for effluent to flush out of the tube, no matter whether horizontal or vertically, as well as the chance to control a step cleaning operation. Whereas if manually lancing, an operator needs to be wary of their anti-withdrawal device, their stinger, their foot pedal, where if you step clean using a means of automated equipment, our built-in anti-withdrawal devices and dump controls and directional controls make it very easy to peck through a deposit or run a tube as slow or as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions on lance selection, tool selection, equipment selection, or backout prevention / safety features, please contact StoneAge Tools.